So I've been rewatching a show called Elementary. And for those of you who don't know what show Elementary is, it's an American-made version of Sherlock Holmes. It's in the 21st century, and it's about Sherlock and his partner, Joan Watson. It is Joan instead of John, because it is played by a woman, Lucy Liu. It's really, really great, especially if you like mystery or detective shows or crime shows. But it was pointed out to me that they drink a lot of coffee. And I didn't notice it before when I was watching the first time that I watched through it. But this time, now that I'm rewatching, I've had it pointed out to me. They always have coffee in their hands. And I'm actually not a coffee drinker at all. I'm not interested in coffee. For me, it doesn't taste good. But I do like hot chocolate. Like, I love hot chocolate. And every time I see them now with these coffee cups, I'm like, I just really want a hot chocolate. And I was watching earlier today, and now I'm sitting down ready to film, and I'm just thinking, it'd be so nice to have a hot chocolate right now. But I am going to film instead and hold back, since it is getting actually pretty warm in my apartment today. So I feel like I don't need one, but I just really want that taste. I don't know. I don't mind hot chocolate during the summer, so I mean, it might be after I'm done filming. I might very well get a hot chocolate. But anyway, does that ever happen to you where like you see something in a show so much that you're just like, I want that now? And to me, I associate coffee cups with hot chocolate, since I drink hot chocolate when I go to places instead of coffee. So I don't know. I just have this strong craving right now. And I just was curious if any of you guys ever have strong cravings about something that you see in television shows or that keeps popping up or not. Or maybe it's just me. All right, well, either way, let's go ahead and get into today's class. Welcome back, Fantasy Fiction Fanatics. It's great to see you again, and I hope you're doing well. Today's class is going to be on the next set of chapters for Harrow the Ninth, chapters 42 through 46. We are going right along in our story, and we're getting pretty close to the end, actually, only about another 8 chapters or so. So we are really getting into the thick of things now, and definitely based on the events in these last several chapters, we are really starting to see everything coming together, and we're understanding more about what's been going on this entire book that's had us all confused, or at least me confused, maybe not as much you, but definitely me confused. We're starting to get those answers, and we're starting to see where this is all leading us, or where Tamsyn is finally going to show us that this story is getting to. So let's go ahead and jump right in with our recap. So I feel like we have quite a few things that go on in this set of chapters. A lot of things that are revealed, maybe not so much event-wise, since it's all kind of revolving around 2 different events, but we are definitely really starting to see more of the bigger picture of everything that's been going on. We start off with one last scene where she's kind of like doing these weird scenes that we've had the last couple chapters, and she's kind of like a clergy person in the military, and again, it's not, she's told this is not how it happens, and we then have Harrow waking up or coming to a sense that she is herself, at least we believe it's herself, based on the beginning of the chapter, and she finally remembers Gideon and that everything that she has lost and what actually happened at Canaan House. And Abigail is there and is talking to her and letting her know. She explains that she is in the river and that she is a ghost talking to her from the river. And also explains that Harrow is being haunted by the sleeper, and that is something that has been haunting her in her mind and needs to be taken care of. And that everybody who has died at Canaan House has actually been called by Harrow there to help her unhaunt herself. And then we have Gideon waking up in Harrow's body. So back in reality, or reality in the ship, is Gideon taking over the body, because Harrow's soul has somehow left the body, or is at least not in touch with the body at this time. And she immediately has to start fighting these giant bees that are attacking her, after, of course, she was stabbed as well. But then she pulls out the sword and is under attack and is trying to help save Harrow from dying from all these killer bees. We transition back to the river, And we see Harrow talking to Ortis. We see that he does not blame her for his death because it was really Crux that blew up the craft that he and his mother escaped in. And they kind of make a little bit of a peace there on that account. And then we get back to Gideon, who's still fighting those killer bees. But she finally destroys those bees enough that she can kind of make her way through the ship, and she discovers Mercy Morn. And even has a conversation with her, and Mercy Morn she realizes something about Gideon. We're not really sure what still. Something about dolls or whatever that she is talking about, and how the previous Gideon was supposed to do something or possibly kill Gideon's mother. But not quite clear, but she does recognize something about Gideon and then tries to kill her and Harrow. And we find out also that Mercy was the one who stabbed Harrow in the hopes of helping her die, which is really pleasant, sure. And then Cytherea comes in right when Mercy Morn's attacking and blasts her enough that Gideon can then get away, and Cytherea leaves. So, not sure how that's the case, how Cytherea is alive, but that is what seems to be the case at this point. And that's where we have left things at the end of this set of chapters. So we definitely have a lot going on, a lot of changes, a lot of instant revelations on exactly what is going on, some things that are explained that then help us understand the past that has been rewritten and all that kind of stuff. So we're slowly but surely understanding things that the first 2/3 of the book did not reveal to us, and now we are slowly but surely understanding everything that's kind of going on at this point. So first and foremost, let's discuss the point of view, because we've discussed point of view a couple times in the set of chopping out this book, because it is such a unique point of view. Second person is pretty much never used in books. This is actually the first book, as I've mentioned before, that has any second person in it. But we can finally be confirmed that it's really not written in second person per se. It is second person, but it's second person because it's first person from Gideon's point of view, which I'm pretty proud of, because I did suspect that, and I know I have mentioned that a couple times to you guys before, that I was kind of wondering if Gideon was the narrator. So I'm pretty excited that that ended up being the case and that I was not way off track. But really, it's written in first person from Gideon's point of view. But Gideon was trapped in a box inside of Harrow, which made it seem like it was just a second person point of view. We don't get any of Gideon's personality from her point of view until she comes to the forefront here, and we fully immerse ourselves in the first person that Gideon is now bringing to life. And Harrow's adventure is now fully in the third person to really distinctly separate those things. So we get that she was so far removed. That's why it was the second person, was because Gideon's narrating it and she's talking as if she's talking to Harrow inside of Harrow. So she's saying, you did this, you did that. But now that she is in the forefront and she is taking control, she's taking back that first person point of view that is really where she's been narrating from this whole time. We just didn't realize it until we had that one little clue earlier, and then now that she's fully in the body, we've come back to her being first person point of view, which was the same thing as the previous book. Gideon was our first person point of view from Gideon the Ninth. I do think that it's interesting though in terms of the second person point of view, and the fact that we even could have had it be a first person point of view where Gideon was saying, we did this, we did that, which would have been also an interesting point of view, because it would have been all we, even though it was Harrow's body doing it. But she is not actually connected to Harrow. She is pushed to the back of Harrow's mind, Harrow's body. She's segregated, whatever else. And she even mentions that she was not able to truly experience things in the same way because she was so far pushed back and removed. So that is why she is using the you, because she's basically talking to Harrow. She's basically narrating to Harrow what Harrow is doing. And then now that she's full and present, she can go back to that eye and say, this is what I'm doing and this is what happened to me. But I do think it would have been interesting if a different, way of writing it would have been, we did this, we did that. Because Gideon is really in this body, she's just not actively in control. So it makes sense it would be a you versus a we. But in a different version of this story, it could have been a we, and that would have been super interesting as well. Still a very unique way of writing it either way. So I do commend Tamsyn for doing such a interesting and unique way of using that second person point of view to throw us off, as well as then to have it all make sense at the end with this switch to Gideon's first person point of view. Which leads me into my first topic, which is of course Gideon. We have not been able to discuss her in a long time because she hasn't been in this book, and we didn't even know that she was still present within Harrow for sure. I know I mentioned that Gideon might be the narrator before, but I never really thought that she was a live active participant. I always figured that she still had a little bit of her essence maybe still in Harrow, but obviously things were all messed up for Harrow. She had different memories, she had different problems going on, so super confusing as to how Gideon was still narrating this, if that was the case, or what kind of presence she had in Harrow's body, since I didn't realize that she was actually pushed away. I was under the impression that the souls had truly melded, that there was more of a problem with Harrow's memory, and that was causing the issue. Which technically that is the case, considering she did change her own memory, but that wasn't for sure exactly what that changed memory did to her and Gideon's soul. So we didn't realize that they were still so split. But now she is back, and I have truly missed her. I really loved her as the main character of the last book, so I am glad that at least a little bit we go ahead and get to see her and get to experience her once again. Even if it is at the end of this book and we don't really know what's going to be moving forward for her, since she doesn't have her own body anymore at this point. So she's back, and that's really fun. I really enjoyed the change with her personality coming more to the forefront and actually getting to experience that once again. And it really does make a difference that we had almost a whole entire book without her personality, and then now we are really switching modes by bringing that personality back to the forefront and bringing us back to kind of how we were in book one. I do think that's a very interesting dynamic, a very interesting change to have made. According to my Kindle, we're about 70% through the book, so I would say 65 if we're not counting the section that we just read. We have 65% of the book where we're completely different kind of tone, different personality, different kind of viewpoint, the oddity with the second person, and then now we are switching back to kind of the mode that we had with book one, where it's the first person point of view with our snarky main character who is not afraid to say what she feels in her narration. It's also very interesting with it being her point of view and with the personality, coming forth from Gideon, that she has not changed at all, at least, from what we can tell. Her personality is still the same as ever. The soul's the same snarkiness, the same sass and thought processes. So we really see that she hasn't changed at all. She really is still herself. But it's also interesting to think about the fact that she has been the narrator this whole time, and she has still been alive in Harrow's body. But the projection of her personality was so subdued by, the events that have taken place that we did not see any of her personality come through. We didn't see any personality of anything. It was a very clinical narration. And it seemed very Harrow in many ways. At least for me, it seemed a very Harrow way of narrating, even though it wasn't in the first person point of view. It's very clean cut, very much how Harrow thinks, or at least that's the impression that we get, is that that's expressing Harrow's personality through the narration. But really, Gideon could have, narrated in her own opinion, added her own commentary and her own thoughts and her own feelings into this narration, and she did not. So I do find that that's super interesting that we do have that switch, especially as I mentioned so far through the book, is that we had no sense that Gideon was really there at all, and then now all of Gideon's personality, that doesn't seem like it's changed much at all, is rushing to the forefront. Along with that, we don't have any character progression for her. So even though she's back from book 1, we don't have any way to measure how her personality or her character has changed. It seems that she has been very stagnant, which could be because, she hasn't actually experienced anything. She's been kind of trapped in a box, as her soul trapped in a box in the back of Harrow's mind, and has just been along for the ride. But you would think that then that personality would show through in the narration, or that you would think that, even just her soul being trapped and being so stagnant there, and just watching, kind of not fully there, kind of just watching through a veil or something, that would possibly change her as a character. Because, I think it's been about 8 months that she's locked up in Harrow's mind. Like, that's how long that Harrow's been a lector. You would think that would change a character as well. But it seems more like Gideon hasn't changed. It's just been how she's been locked up to being not locked up that has changed the personality of her narration and who she is. So now she is fully forward back to herself, and we haven't seen any character progression with her. So it'll be interesting to see if we're going to get any character progression through the rest of the story, or what happens with Gideon from here, because we don't actually understand or know yet how this is going to proceed. We just know that she is now back, and she has kind of had a pin put in her, like being pushed on pause, wait right here until this moment, and now she is bursting forth and seems minorly unfazed by the situation, or more like she understands that this is just the way things are at this point. Next, let's go ahead and talk about Harrow and Gideon's relationship. I think that this is a clear designation of Harrow and Gideon's relationship, at least from Harrow's point of view, that we have, but also a bit from Gideon's point of view as well. We'll talk about both. But just having Gideon coming back in this moment shows a lot about the relationship that they had, that we can now truly understand the full depths of at this moment or nearing the end of book 2. Harrow clearly does love Gideon, even though she treated her horribly, beyond horribly, and I don't really understand how Gideon could be okay with being treated that horribly, though we do find that she, in the end, forgives Harrow and has no hard feelings toward her. But we can see that Harrow truly loved Gideon in the fact that she tried everything she could to keep Gideon alive. She has locked her in the back of her body, segregated their souls, completely forgot about her in order to keep her still alive and not let their souls meld. So that right there shows the true depth and effort that Harrow has made to keep Gideon alive after her sacrifice. And she's even, in order to do any of this, needed to do intensive brain surgery that could have killed both of them, but took the risk because she wanted to keep Gideon and preserve Gideon and her soul at all costs. She intended to live like that with no knowledge of Gideon ever again for the rest of her life, in order to help keep Gideon alive. So that truly shows the depths of Harrow's feelings for Gideon, even if, we only saw a little bit of that caring and that understanding toward Gideon at the end, and mostly just saw that she was a horrible human being to her. But now we are seeing the full depths of that connection that she has with Gideon. On the flip side, we see Gideon's love for Harrow, or her, don't know if I can totally say love, but her depth of feeling for Harrow, in the sense of how much she cares about Harrow and how much she's willing to do to protect Harrow, and the fact that she's been locked up in Harrow's body, unable to say anything to anybody, unable to talk to even Harrow, unable to have any sort of contact or experience other than the kind of veiled experience she is as she's watching Harrow do this stuff. But the first thing that she does when she gets to her, to have a body, even if it's not her own, but to be out in the world and actually a person again in many ways, is to think about how she wants Harrow back, to try and get her to come back to the moment, as well as to protect Harrow's body at all costs. Of course, she is not as successful as she wanted to be, and the bees are really damaging her and her clothing and all that kind of stuff, but she is doing her best to make sure Harrow doesn't die. She is doing her best to try and not destroy her body as much as possible, even though that is not really working out so well right now. But she's making these apologies in her narration. She's saying, I swear I had the best intentions. I was not trying to do anything. She looks at herself in the mirror and doesn't want to be Harrow. Finds herself sick that she is looking out through Harrow's eyes instead of Harrow looking out through Harrow's eyes. So we can see that Gideon really cares about Harrow still, even after being locked up for, I think it was 8 months, without any sense of being able to do anything. And of course she's being attacked, but I mean, she's trying to preserve Harrow as best she can and just hold on until Harrow can come back to herself. And all her thoughts are related to Harrow, not herself, not trying to hope that Harrow doesn't come back and that she can just have the body and go or anything like that. She really cares about protecting Harrow even after, being locked up for so long. She doesn't have any selfish thoughts about it. Her one goal is just to protect Harrow. And the first thing she even says when she comes back to, or comes fully into the body, is, somebody has stabbed my necromancer. So she's still very possessive and still very duty oriented on keeping her necromancer safe. So that shows how deep Gideon feels about Harrow. The only thing I wonder about, which I'm not really sure if this will be answered or not, we're gonna find out, but what was Harrow's plan for Gideon? I mean, was Gideon just going to be locked up separately as like two separate souls in her body for the rest of eternity? Because, Harrow's now supposed to be, everlasting unless she gets murdered, which takes a lot for a lector to get murdered and actually stay dead. I mean, even Cythera is not dead still. So what is the plan? Was she thinking that she could somehow pull Harrow's or Gideon's soul out of her at some point and transport it into a different body? I find that hard to believe that that would be the case, especially if she had no memory of Gideon, how she would expect that to be the case. And what was the point of keeping Gideon alive if she was not going to have any, way of relating to her and talking to her and keeping her around? I mean, in Harrow's mind, she had no Gideon in the first place to care whether she was alive or dead and to rely on. So it makes me wonder what Harrow's end goal was. It's amazing that she wanted to keep her alive, but if she was just going to be alive, locked in her body and not actually be able to experience any life, it seems like it would end up being, in many ways, the same thing as Gideon fully dying. So maybe I'm wrong about that. Maybe you guys would like to input your own statements on what you think the plan is, or whether the segregation is of the souls, even if Gideon did not have her own body, as very, very different. I would love to hear your thoughts. I just think it's very interesting because it seems like Gideon's not living much of a life locked up inside Harrow's body and just getting to go along for the ride. But definitely shows that both of them deeply care about each other, even after not being able to interact and not being able to express any of this after the whole length of Harrow being a lector. Now, last but not least, let's go ahead and go over the nitty gritty. So, first thing on my list for the nitty gritty is that soon we will hopefully be coming to understand about the sleeper and Harrow's haunting, how that connection is, why that sleeper is there, exactly how that happened, because we obviously knew that that happened when she went to talk to Septimus, that she brought that sleeper with her for when she was in there, that he just kind of came along because he's mentally haunting her. But we're going to hopefully understand more about that haunting and what exactly happened and how that came to be, because I find that's the one thing that we're really now not understanding. We get now why Harrow made these changes, why the past is all different, all that kind of stuff. We understand that Gideon is still alive in her body and right now is running around trying to keep her alive. And we understand what the memories were, and those were like compiled by the ghosts in the river. But we don't really understand what's going on with the sleeper and why the sleeper is haunting her, how this came about. So hopefully we will learn that soon. I also find it interesting that all the other ghosts have come to help Harrow, and the fact that they didn't really know her very much, and a lot of them probably didn't even like her. Ortis is obviously a different state of affair, but all of those from Canaan House were not like friends with her. They usually died before they were friends, or were not one of the ones that she was in a group with. She was mostly with Camilla and Septimus. But why did they all heed her call, and why are they all there to help her? I think that's super an interesting concept. That especially Abigail and Marcus, though they did kind of like her, they didn't really get a chance to be close to her or spending time. They were the first to die. And yet Abigail seems to be the one that's really truly helping her in this moment. I mean, even in all the other weird, not right pasts, Abigail's always the one that shows up and says, nope, that's not right. That's not how that happened. So I find that very interesting that they're all willing to be there and risk their souls to help Harrow. And then the next thing I think will be interesting for us to keep in mind and to see and look forward to seeing is what will happen when Harrow comes back to herself. Will she still remember Gideon? And if so, what will then happen to Gideon because Harrow knows about Gideon? So what will trigger this, and what will happen? Will Gideon then be reabsorbed into Harrow anyway? And all of that will be futile, all of Harrow's plans? Or will there be some other connection that they can then work out where they can both still be in that body? We'll find out. It'll be very interesting to find out on exactly what Tamsyn's plan is for the ending of this story and the connection between Gideon and Harrow. And last but not least, the biggest question of all that we're all hopefully gonna get an answer to is, how is Cytherea alive? Like, what? How is that possible that they killed her? She was a dead body. They had a whole ceremony for her. And then now she's just running around trying to kill Ortis, or possibly the other Gideon, since it's very possible that Ortis' name is really Gideon. As well as, shooting Mercy Morn in the back for Gideon and Harrow. I don't really know how this happened. We don't really understand how this happened or what's going on, but hopefully we'll get some answers. I mean, that's all we can truly hope for at this point. But those are lots of things that, even though we're getting answers and we're actually finding that the pieces of the puzzle are really coming together now, can we please get answers to these next couple ones in the coming chapters before we end? I will say once again, Tamsyn Muir is pretty amazing in the fact that both book 1 and book 2 all start somewhere, and we're just going and going and going, and we don't really know anything that's going on. She's really good at covering up all the big details, all the major puzzle pieces that you need to really understand things, and then at the end just going bam, 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 and everything just finally just gets revealed and falls into place. So she's really, really good at keeping that mystery alive and keeping you wondering and keeping you guessing and keeping you not understanding, and at times even feeling like you do understand, and then you find out that really you didn't understand anything, and really the piece that she puts in there fits much better than what you thought that you already knew. Especially with book 1, I felt that way. It's like it didn't seem as much of a cluster of everything that I don't understand. It felt more like a traditional trajectory of a plot line, and then at the end everything just twists on its head and goes upside down, and you realize exactly what's going on. Here we're all twisted around and like wondering what's happening, and we're like spinning out of control, and then at the end now she's just putting in one puzzle piece after another, and we're just straightening ourselves out and flying now down to the end of our story. So very, very interesting that she can put the plot line in such a way that then we are getting everything filled in, all those blanks filled in at the end, and really truly getting the whole picture of everything. So I do really commend her on her writing style and her writing structure for that. Okay, and that's all I had for this set of chapters. Harrow the Ninth's chapters 42 through 46. Hopefully you guys are enjoying the story and enjoying discussing it with me. Hopefully you will enjoy the last couple of videos that we do, since we are getting pretty close to the end. It'll only be a couple left, and then we will be done with book 2 of The Locked Tomb. So hopefully you are excited for those. Before we go ahead and wrap up, let's go ahead and go over the trivia question. Last week's trivia question's answer was gold for what is Jaime Lannister's fake hand made out of, and the answer is gold. Congratulations to Roast Beef, Dan, and Christian. Guys, he's never gonna finish the series, for getting the correct answer. And thank you to everybody else who submitted answers and tried your best at getting the correct one and playing with me. I really appreciate it. If you would like to join in the trivia question, we do change it every week. You can go over to the blog, fantasyfictionfanatics.net. On desktop, it will be on that right-hand side. You'll just have to scroll just a little bit and you'll be able to see the question. If you're on mobile, you'll have to scroll almost all the way down to the end in order to find it. But just go ahead and type in your answer and whatever name you would like to be known as, and you will get to see if you are correct next week. Thanks again to everyone who participated and who plays with me. I really have a fun time with you guys. While you're over at the blog answering the trivia question, or if you're not interested in the trivia question but do want to see other content from me, you can hang out over there. You can see book reviews, book recommendations, different topics that I discuss on fantasy or reading or writing. I have a lot of different things over there. I've also got recommendations for non-book related fantasy items and lots of other stuff. So even some personal things, as well as my newsletter. If you want to sign up for that over there, I do send out a monthly newsletter with updates from all of the content that I create, as well as personal updates from me, as well as some behind the scenes looks. If you are interested in that, you can go ahead and sign up. And I think that is it. If you would like to contact me, you can do so down below, or you're welcome to contact me through Twitter, which is @fantasyfiction1. You're also welcome to contact me through Facebook, which is /fantasyfiction1. I do post updates whenever I upload new content, either on the blog or here on the channel, which you will be able to find over there if you are interested on either social media site. You are also welcome to join our Discord, where we've got plenty of fantasy fanatics already over there, having a good time, chit-chatting, getting to know each other, and talking about all things fantasy, as well as non-fantasy-related things. We enjoy talking about lots of things. But if you want to go ahead and talk with other like-minded individuals who really enjoy fantasy, we'd love to have you and have you join the discussion. The link is down below for you to join. And you are also welcome to contact me on there as well, since I am constantly over there chatting as well. And that is it for me today. I hope you guys enjoyed this class, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye!